This was me 60 days ago, and this is me now. I've always wanted to learn wave windsurfing, but growing up with only flat water, I never really had the chance. So I spent 2 months in Western Australia to do nothing but wave windsurfing. I had no idea how far I'd actually get. So here's what happened. Before this trip, most of my windsurfing was in completely different conditions. I grew up sailing on flat water in central Germany. So I focused on racing, slalom, foil and speed. I did have a few wave sessions over the years, mainly in Tarifa. But those were on free wave gear and the conditions there are nothing like what I found here. So when I arrived in Western Australia, this felt like starting from scratch. All right, guys, first day here for me in Margaret River. First time also on like a decent wave spot, maybe, I don't know, logo high, or how do you say in waves? I don't even know.
That's right, actually.
So Sammy just explained me how to get out. So yeah, I'm going to take the free wave and yeah, just try to maybe take some bigger waves on the shoulder just to get a feeling for it and hopefully not crash into the rocks, but looks pretty epic out there. When I got here, I was actually training alongside the Patrick International Wave team, so PWA riders. And honestly, I felt completely out of my element. My level was just not there. I couldn't read the waves, I didn't know where to position myself, and I couldn't really turn on the waves. Most of the time, because I was positioning myself wrong and in front of the wave, I actually got washed. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, getting washed on the inside over and over again. And everything that I was doing was basically coming from a slalom background. Fast, straight, fully locked in, basically the opposite of what you want when you're wave riding. So in the beginning, I was actually not really riding the waves, I was more riding in front of it. I was honestly just really surviving. That was so much fun to get into these waves, but I have to say my timing was completely off. So apparently I went in way too early, so then the wave kept closing out on me and I had to race around the wave. And only towards the end, I understood that it's better to just go all the way in then, instead of like staying close to the white water. So I got washed 2 times. And yeah, unfortunately then getting washed on the white water and on the reef, I kind of fucked my knee a bit. It's completely open now, so the skin is gone, but whatever. I guess that's part of the process of learning how to wave sail. And yeah, just really stoked to be here in Western Australia. To be fair, I was learning in some of the best wave spots that there are in the world. Margaret River, Nauru, Coronation, those are top class wave spots. So most of the times I was actually riding in Margaret River right here next to me. And this is really a down the line wave, which offers basically one big bowl where you can do one nice turn. I also spent some time in Geraldton, and over there the conditions are a bit different. So there it's a little bit more onshore, which made turning for me there really hard because you're really lacking that power when you're turning onto the wave because you're going so far downwind. So that for me was the most difficult spot to learn wave riding. And then the third spot I was sailing quite a few times was Nauru all the way up north, which is a super awesome spot. It's also a down the line spot, but the wave has more than just the one bowl like in Margaret River. It's maybe a bit smaller, but therefore you can do like lots of turns, maybe 3-4 turns. So the biggest change in the beginning was learning how to read the ocean. At the beginning, when I was out there on the wave spot, the ocean just really looked random. There were some lines, but I couldn't really tell where I needed to position myself, how to jibe or tack onto the wave to actually be on the wave in the critical section. But slowly, as I was getting out there every day, I started to kind of see where the waves would break and where I needed to jibe, where I needed to tack to actually ride to the inside and actually be in the critical section of the wave. So that was kind of the first phase of learning how to wave sail for me. And that actually made a big difference because once I kind of understood where the wave would break and where I needed to jibe, I was starting to actually ride the wave and not just sailing like in front of it or the shoulder. And then the first thing is the bottom turn when you're going on the wave. So this actually, I would say, came rather naturally to me because I think it's quite similar to like a lay-down jibe that you do on the racing gear. So you kind of lay down the sail and try to get this tight turn back up to the lip. And this, I felt like, yeah, I wasn't really struggling that much with. But the top turn, honestly, was a different story. This one I really struggled with. And I think that's mainly because on the one hand, I didn't really commit to actually fully hitting the lip, like doing the bottom turn and then coming back up onto the top of the wave and then really just turning on the lip of the wave.
Oh, some quality lip avoidance there, nearly got it. Oh, he gets eaten. Ah!
I couldn't get the board around as fast as I wanted on the top, so I was like more sliding on the wave. And I think there's 2 parts to this. One is that yeah, the technique to learn the top turn for me is much more difficult than to learn the bottom turn. And the other is just like the psychological factor that when you're like under the lip and the wave starts breaking, yeah, it takes some guts to commit to it, especially here in Margaret River where you can have some pretty big bowls. So a lot of times I kind of turn the board around before actually hitting the lip. I think the biggest shift in my wave windsurfing was once I understood that I'm not actually slalom sailing. I'm not using the sail really to get through the wave. I'm using the power of the wave. And once I understood that, that made my wave riding a lot more natural, I feel. Because then, yeah, you're kind of using a little bit the power of the sail in the bottom turn to get back up. But then you really don't want to use the sail. And that's the mistake I made in the beginning. And once I understood that I needed to use the power of the wave, which, by the way, also means that when I'm coming in on the wave, I'm kind of staying on top of the wave, on the lip of the wave where it would break, and then waiting until the wave gets steeper, and only then do the bottom turn back up into the wave. And this gave me a lot more power and speed on the wave. And this allowed me to not really rely on the power of my sail so much. And it also allowed me to actually hit the critical sections because I was carrying more speed into the turn. And staying on top of the wave, I always had the power to go down and back up into the top turn. And also once I understood this, I also feel like that's the point where it really started to become fun to hitting the waves and going wave windsurfing every day, and I just couldn't get off the water anymore. And from that point on, I also felt like each day that I was going onto the water, I made a little bit of progress in the wave. One thing that actually helped me a lot as well, and is also a comment I saw under a lot of my videos that I posted, is hand positioning. Once I understood that in the bottom turn, I needed to place my hands wider to kind of keep the power in the bottom turn, and then put the hands closer together in the top turn and more to the front of the sail and actually release the power of the sail, I felt like my top turn was also getting a little bit better and a little bit more snappy. Because when you have the power in the backhand, when you keep the backhand too far back, I feel like, yeah, the board just keeps going and not really turning because you have all this power in your backhand and you really don't want to have that. You want to kind of release the power from the backhand and kind of get under your sail, like over the board. So yeah, that tip actually helped me a lot as well and allowed me also to get a little bit closer to under the lip, let's say. But even then I have to say, like, the top turn still didn't feel right. It still didn't feel snappy enough. I was still like doing it too wide, not snappy enough. So that's still something I needed to work on. So yeah, after 60 days, this is pretty much where I'm at. I spent 32 days on the water out of the 60 days. And I feel after the 60 days, like the thing that improved the most is my positioning on the waves, that I can read the waves now. My bottom turns obviously feel a lot more solid. I can actually get into the right part of the waves and do some turns. But overall, I'm still not where I want to be, kind of. I would say the top turn is still my biggest weakness for now. It's getting closer, but it's not sharp, not snappy, and still not really hitting the lip the way I wanted to. So yeah, there's still lots to learn, but compared to where I started 60 days ago, to me it feels like I'm at a completely different level. I can actually ride the waves now. I really have fun doing it. And yeah, I feel like I can really progress from here. Guys, I just love windsurfing so much. That was the most fun wave session I've had in my life. And yeah, actually I didn't feel that scared. I felt kind of in control today, which is amazing because I remember 2 weeks ago when I was out here for the first time, I totally, excuse my language, but shit my pants. And today I actually felt somewhat comfortable in these conditions. And I felt like I didn't just like ride in front of the wave today, but actually made some little turns. I felt even like on the top turn that I could get around faster, which I think looks so cool when the pros do it. And I just love that I've been doing slalom and speed for, I don't know, 15 years. And now I'm really only getting into waves a bit late maybe, but there's just always something new and something fun to learn in windsurfing, and this wave thing is just honestly amazing. So, can you learn wave windsurfing in just 2 months? No, not perfectly, but you can get to a point where you're actually riding waves, doing turns, and most importantly, having a lot of fun with it. And that's actually what surprised me the most. Because once you reach that level, a whole new side of this sport opens up. But at the same time, you realize how much there's still to learn. Better bottom turns, better top turns, more control throughout the waves. And beyond that, next aerials, then even tricks, and we even haven't talked about jumping yet. But this stuff takes years and years to master. I think windsurfing is just one of those sports where there's always another level. But if you already have a solid foundation in windsurfing, you will be able to learn the basics of wave windsurfing in just 2 months. So you can get into wave windsurfing much faster than you actually might think.